Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about calendars. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two devices. We're going to look at the Supernote Manta and we're going to look at the Note Air 5C. And the reason we're using the Note Air 5C from BOOX is primarily because of the fact that the calendar on that device is the most advanced version of the calendar that BOOX has to offer. They rolled this specific update out only to that device, so I want to make the comparison as fair as possible. So if you're using another BOOX device, you will not see the same experience as you're going to see me show here. If you're using the Note Air 5C, however, you will see that. But the thing I've been grappling with, and we'll jump over to in a minute, is these are two very well thought out and implemented calendar systems that are just different. I think they're trying to solve different problems, and I think they're for different use cases and different users. So hopefully what you'll see as we go through the video is what I mean by that. And I had a poll out the other day that was talking about this same thing, and the results of it were pretty interesting, and we'll walk through that as well. So as a matter of fact, why don't we do that first, and then we'll take a look at the devices. Okay, so here we are with the poll. And what I did was I looked at the different calendars out there, and I only own BOOX and Supernote devices, and those are the only two that I can really compare on. And I started to think about what the ecosystems looked like and what the problems these calendars were trying to solve. So I asked this question, and there were 46 votes, so a decent amount of people responded. And I asked, is it a digital first calendar? For me, a digital first calendar means it integrates with Google Calendar or with Microsoft Outlook, and it doesn't really have any what I would consider handwritten tool features on the calendar itself. So when we get to BOOX, you'll see what I mean by that, but you can't write on the monthly view or a weekly view. You can basically just see your events, and then you have a memo line or something similar to where you can write notes that are for that day. So we'll look at that here in a minute. Then I have what are called the writing first calendars. And to me, a writing first calendar is this idea of what the Supernote and when I had it, the WeWoods did, where you can also write on the monthly blocks. You could also write on the day blocks within the weekly view. And then, of course, you couldn't write on the daily view, but you could link notes and some different things like that. That to me is a writing first calendar because it replicates as close as possible the calendar experience you would get if you had an old fashioned paper calendar that you were trying to keep notes on. So the Supernote and the WeWoods would fit into that bucket. Then the last one was writing only. It doesn't link to anything. You can't have Google Calendar. You can't have Outlook, but you can have a calendar app. I don't know what device fits in that category, and you can see from the poll results that not many people said much about that. I would say that was prior to the newest integration on BOOX when they added the syncing to digital platforms. It was kind of close to that, but not so much because it only had that daily memo. And it was the WeWoods before they added the ability to link your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, and you could still write on it. And it may even be the very early iteration of the Supernote calendar, but going back just to my original A5X, I always had that calendar sync functionality. So I don't know what was on the Linux version, but I would assume it may have been just a handwritten calendar. And then the last thing is, I don't want a calendar. I want just a PDF planner. And there are a lot of those to choose from out there, and they're very good. So if that's what you want to do, then that might be the best thing for you. Now, this started out really neck and neck between the digital first and the writing first. And then writing first kind of took the lead by a pretty decent margin. You'll see here that writing first is 52%. So it by far got the largest percentage. Then you have a divide coming in as a fairly close second is the digital first, and I would consider that the BOOX style. And then you have a good showing from the digital PDF planner group out there who are using things like My Daily Organizer or the Get It Done Planner. So there are a lot of options on Etsy and a lot of different places for you to be able to get those hyperlinked PDF planners planners to really do some cool stuff. But I just wanted to show this to kind of set the tone and show you where we were at with all of this before I dove into the devices. And we will go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here we are with the Supernote Manta here on my left and the BOOX Note Air 5C on my right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through these calendars. Now, I already have the Supernote calendar pulled up, but that's mainly because it's real easy to get to from wherever you are in your system. You can go ahead and have this set up to be able to just press the calendar and you're automatically there. With BOOX, it's a little bit different, and depending on your device, since we're using the Note Air 5C, that's what I'm going to focus on. So I have my apps here, I have my widgets here, and I have the memo app here. What I normally do is go to this other screen, which is my quick access screen, and then you'll see here that I have the calendar memo here as well. And you'll notice that if I have anything written in the memo line, it's going to come straight through. But I have to click into the memo to be able to see the full calendar. So if I press on the memo, now you'll see I'm in the calendar view on both devices. Let's go ahead and start with BOOX, since we were talking about digital first as the way that I see this device and why you would want this device to work a certain way. So for example, if you're in a digital first mindset, you're going to be more concerned about your events, your dots here that are telling you that you have events on those days. And then here is where the power of the BOOX calendar really comes in. So you have your memo, which I've got a nice little quote here from my friend David at Tablet Tech that says, "I do wish it had a template," because I think that's very true. I have trouble writing in straight lines as well. But here's a test memo. You saw that when I was on the outside. You'll only see the one on the current day, and that can sometimes be a little disconcerting. So if you want to see something from the day before, you have to go into this view to be able to see that. So you'll notice I had this same thing because I planned to shoot this earlier before it went past midnight. And then you would be able to see the same thing here pretty much that I had. And then while here, you can see I also had meetings. And when I go to the 17th, you'll see there were more meetings here. And the thing that they added, which I can't really show, but check out David's recent video on the BOOX update, is you can now filter your calendars. And for me, that's what made this borderline unusable, because I, like many people, I think, especially if you're in a Google workspace, had so many calendars attached or that I was following or that had been shared with me that I was just 7-8 pages of events, and there was no way to filter out the noise. And I can do that on my PC, and I can do that in a lot of different places. But to me, this is a digital first experience on the BOOX because your events are central. If you come down here into this space, you have that memo, but you can also see any to-dos you've added. You can also see any notes that you've accessed that day, and you can see any reading that you've done that day in the BOOX library. So it's not going to show you something like Kindle or Kobo or any of that, but if you're reading PDFs or EPUBs that you have in the BOOX library, they're all going to show here, and then they're basically live hyperlinks, and you can go ahead and take a look at those. So very functional, very useful, but what's different here is you don't even have really a daily view. You have your events, but that's it. You don't have a weekly view, so you can't zoom into the week and take a look and see what you have coming up each day or make some on-the-fly notes. So it's very much digital first. And I think that suits a very specific need for someone who needs to work in that way. It does have the advantage of being integrated with to-dos, which when we get to the Supernote, that's not the case. But it does have all of the functionality as well, except for the template of the BOOX pen tools. So you can write in color, you can mark up, you can do a whole bunch here, but you're limited to that memo space to be able to do that. So that's a little bit of a limitation. So pretty cool, very functional. I think it's one of those things that if you know that this is your use case, this is an excellent device for that. And I love the visibility of notes and to-dos and reading all in one place. So it makes it a really good experience. Now, when we go over to the Supernote, the difference is going to be that I would consider this a writing first calendar. So you do get your events here. You do get your notes. So you can see any notes, but the only difference is and one that I wish they would remedy, is that you can only see notes you created on that day. And so you can't see anything you just accessed on that day. So for example, if I go here, you're going to see that I have all of my meetings right here that are telling me all of my events. I have my working group note that I created that day because that's my ritual. I go in, I create my notes that day, and that way they're attached to that date. So if I go to any of these dates on here, I will see the notes I created that day. And that's very useful. And I'm glad that they put it that way as opposed to having only the days you open them on, because of the fact that you lose that history of knowing when you first created that note. I kind of like the way BOOX does it, to where it does both creation date and last opened, because that's kind of the best of both worlds for me, because I can see a note that I may use often and always reopen that note, and then it still gives me multiple touch points to be able to engage with that information. And there is no document reading notation on here of any sort. So yes, you have your recent documents and things that you get from quick access, but it's not visible in the calendar. However, where Supernote shines, I would say a little bit over BOOX in the calendar department, is for someone who may not have a Google Calendar or may not want to even use the manual event creation with events like this you would see within the Supernote or BOOX. If you would rather write on a set of days, if you'd rather write within a day, you can do that on the Supernote. Right now, I can write anything I want to here. I don't know why I wrote tie, but I can write that there. And now I have that note for something really quick to reference. And then I can also erase that using my gestures. And I think that, having that ability to write on the day, pencil something in, if you will, thinking how you would on a normal paper calendar, is really cool. And then I also like the idea of being able to go to a weekly view, which is more expanded. And now you can make even more notes that may help you throughout your day if you want to be more granular in that day. And then you have still the same consistency along the bottom of your events and any notes you've created that day. So again, we can write something here, and then we can go ahead and erase it. All of that functionality is still there. Pretty cool. I can create an event just like I can on the BOOX. The only thing you can't write on is your daily view. However, having this daily view is a nice snapshot. Think of it as an agenda view within the Google Calendar or the Outlook calendar, and the way you would go to your agenda view and be able to see all of your events, which are then also editable right from here. So if I wanted to, I could press on one of these, edit it. I can also add with the button here. But one thing they haven't done yet is allow you to be able to write on this. That would be extremely valuable, again, for penciling something in that I may want to add later, or for someone who's using this as strictly a digital calendar and a version of what a paper calendar would already do. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense as to why I say it's more of a writing first approach. The writing first part of that is the fact that this replicates paper, just like you would see in your traditional calendar that you may put on your desk, or your calendar that you would get and hang on your refrigerator. And that's a different approach to the way these things work. And I really do like that. Now, what I would love to see Supernote do is integrate some of the to-do functionality. Right now, yes, it's a separate app. You go over here, you go to to-dos, and then you can see your to-dos, and you're all good. The problem with that is a lot of people don't want to switch. And I would love to have it be another snapshot within the calendar app for you to be able to do that. And it may be as simple as just splitting the notes or reorienting somehow to make that, kind of a 3-staged approach. I don't know how they would do it, quite frankly, but I know that they're thinking about reimagining the calendar, and I think that would be a really good touch. And you'll notice here I've got a conference, I've got a workshop we're doing, and then I even used the marker to create these lines to black out dates. So again, always putting writing at the forefront. which of course you would expect Supernote to do because they're for those who write. Books, on the other hand, is taking it very much as an approach of being digital first and working in that digital environment. So let's go ahead and jump back over for a few closing thoughts and wrap this all up in a bow, but I wanted to show you these so that you could see them side by side. All right, everybody, thanks for hanging in on this video. It's something I've been wanting to get to for a little while because there's a lot of comparison and a lot of talk about which calendar's better or which one has more features. And it's highly dependent on your workflow and what you need in a calendar. If you need to be able to scribble or write on a day within a monthly block or to write on a day within a weekly block, you can't really get that on Books because you can never see that fully in one swoop without swiping to go back to the day before or the day after. The memo field is great for the day you're on, but there's no way to access that without swiping into the calendar and then taking a look to and from day to day. You don't get that broad 30,000-foot view. However, the calendar on Books does sync across devices. So if you have multiple devices, you will be able to see your handwritten memos on those other devices. On the Supernote, anything you handwrite is not going to sync across to your other device. Your calendar, your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar will sync on both devices. All of your events will sync. All of that will work. The big difference is going to be in that handwritten content. However, if you're using one device, the Supernote has a slight advantage in the fact that you can pencil in things or write the most important event of the day at the monthly level, maybe the two most important things on the daily level within the weekly view, and then have your actual events and all your other things. Books takes the cake when it comes to integration of your notes because you can see what you've already created that day as well as opened. You can see what you've been reading or annotating that day. You can see your to-dos, and all of those are clickable to go into that specific place. So it gives you that very much fully functional integration between the different apps. Whereas on the Supernote, it's a little bit more manual because you have to create the note day of. Now, once you do, easy to navigate and get into your notes, and then it always stays on that day. So if you go back to that day, you can see I created these 5 notes that day, and it doesn't clutter it with the stuff you also opened that day. But to me, I would accept that little bit of clutter so that I would have a full picture of what I did that day. So kind of a mixed bag. It's really up to you what is most important in your workflow. Do you need that deep integration between the tool sets, or are you okay navigating to a separate to-do app to be able to see that information? If you are, Supernote may be the perfect choice for you. If you're not, then Books may be the right choice. Neither of them actually integrate with Microsoft To-Dos or with Google Tasks, so that's not really on the table here. This is all for task management on device, and it really just comes down to whether or not one is more effective for you to be able to use in your workflow. But let me know what you think in the comments. Which device do you use? Which calendar best fits your needs? And quite frankly, do either of them? Or are you someone who believes that the best approach is the PDF planner that allows you that maximum flexibility of being able to write all over the place and have it all in one spot and not have to worry about any of these integrations, knowing that yes, it all lives in one document, but that it's very easy for you to navigate and get around? Let me know. I think this is a great conversation to have. I think it's really important that we understand these devices and who they're for, because for most of us, we're going to buy one device. We're not going to buy a bunch of tablets. I'm lucky enough to have been given tablets to review, but I know that when I purchased, I bought one device and I needed to make sure that was the right device for me. Hopefully this helps you decide which of these two platforms is the right choice for you, knowing that although this calendar you saw me demo is only on the Books Note Air 5C, currently it will roll out to all Books devices. So which one do you think is better? Let me know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. And until next time, keep on moving forward, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.